All right, I'm gonna go. Cool. Hello. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, but it's good to actually get out of my comfort zone and say hello to everybody live in person rather than through a scripted 20-minute video. I hope everybody's having a great weekend, but I figured as I try to learn some of this stuff, it'd be good for everyone to see it. Can you guys hear me? Always a question that needs to be answered. Sound is echoing. Hello? Let's see. Is the stream open? I can see you. Cool. Can you guys hear me? Is there still an echo? Is there still an echo? It's big. I don't know if there's much I can be done. I don't think I'm talking that loud. Like, there shouldn't be an echo from the room. Maybe there's like a... You know, it might be that there's two audio sources hooked up to this. Let me see. Is that any better? Wait. Oh, that's better? That was it? Sick. Okay. So I shared this over on Twitter and it's been getting some pretty good feedback, but I'll just walk you all through the current implementation that I have for what I'm trying to do. So I was actually playing Uncharted very recently, and one of my favorite things about that game is how when you're just like walking around, Nathan Drake like reaches out and touches a wall, and I thought it'd be cool to use Unity's animation rigging package to recreate that feature. As it turns out, it's obviously harder than it looks. You'd think that just touching a wall would be pretty easy, but what I have right now is, let me just enter play mode and show you guys what's up. If it actually ends up building. Ooh, you know, I've never streamed and entered play mode before, or at least I don't remember if I did. Okay, cool. So we generate a couple colliders, and they're actually triggers that when you're within a certain distance of a wall, it's going to try to reach out to the closest point to a given point that I said was like the shoulder, because I feel like if you're within shoulder reach, like the shoulder range, then you could actually reach it with the hand. So right now I have it so that there's a couple of like coroutines that are running that are activating and deactivating over a set period of time. Like that one, we were still within the collider, but it turned off anyway because we weren't like actually getting close enough for it to like continue the rest of the animation. And that's the idea. So you can kind of see, yeah, you can kind of see right there that it just turns off. And that's the idea, is that if you don't get close enough for the rest of the animation to play, then it'll just reset because nobody holds their hand out for extended periods of time as they get close to something. It might make more sense actually to switch over to the code just so you guys can see what's going on there. Let's see. Let me open OBS to make sure you... Cool. So I feel like my channel has used state machines quite a bit. And... Oh, sorry. Let me actually... Please reply. No, there's no bad video quality. Video works fine. Does it work like you can jump over it? It's not supposed to. Like, ideally, if you're in a jumping state, it just cancels these animations. But if you were to want to do procedural animation, so like you're jumping over something, vaulting over something, you'd probably use a different rig that's like specific to that one thing. UG Paid Gamer adding me. Hi, brother. Don't really know what you want, but what's up? Have you ever met memory leak problem when using animation in Unity? I have not ran into that issue before. But yeah, let's get back to the actual code that we're looking at here. So I have it. As I was saying before, we use a lot of state machines on this channel. I think state machines and the state pattern are pretty clutch, even just in breaking down some problems, like how can we create this animation. I found by meticulously looking at slow motion Uncharted video that I recorded, that you can break down each step of what Drake does into different states. I don't have VLC Media Player hooked up. Let me see if I can quickly add that as a source, a video source. Window capture, new window capture. Okay. You guys can see that, I think. Oh, it's so big. Hang on. Let's. Why is it so? Oh, it's so big because that's how I have it stretched out. All right. Cool. Sorry to do this live. I didn't actually think about showing you the video, but now if we play back, Ben, let's see. One sec. I'm just opening the video with VLC Media Player. Okay. Is that showing up on stream? It is not showing up on stream, but it's playing on mine. Well, that's great. Maybe there's like some copyright or something preventing that. Oscar. So yeah, to answer your question about procedural animation to work, you do need the bones to be there. I'm not sure if you can just like add random game objects as bones, but from my experience, especially with a character, there probably just should be bones there already. Let's see. Well, VLC Player doesn't really want to show up. Let me see if I can just open this in regular, like Windows Media Player. Open Windows. And then I gotta change this window capture, add. Oh, there's like 5 instances of the media player now. What is happening there? This is not like when you try to share other video on top. Yeah, if I show the entire screen. Do I have one that is doing that? Let's see. Is this? Main. Nope. All right, let's see if I can figure this out real quick. Yo, thank you for doing that. That was very nice of you. You didn't have to, Bubber Walrus. I appreciate it though. Come on, Nikki, you can figure this out. You're a professional developer. How hard can streaming a video be? Apparently very hard. gonna give this one more shot with movies and TV doesn't even show up. Man, what a pain. OBS doesn't like when CPU is hitting hard. Yeah, that's true. Thank you for watching the State Machine tutorial, Simon. I appreciate it. It's old at this point, and there's definitely optimizations that can be made. Many people have pointed out the optimizations, but you know, I feel like everybody's learning, same as myself, so we can all make it better over time. Man, it would be really helpful to show you guys this video, but does not appear to be working. Yeah, gonna have to just throw in the towel on that one. Apologize, but it really just doesn't want to show you this video. Is it on YouTube? No, that's the problem. Like, you can look up just any Uncharted gameplay and you can see how Nate interacts with the wall. But in general, actually, you guys seeing that? Is that showing up? Oh, dude, I don't even know. All right, we're just gonna say no to the video. But imagine, I'm gonna try to mine this out. He reaches out, he touches the wall, and then as you move, he just like lets it slide behind him and kind of pushes off it. True tools and switch output to one year. Yep, that's what this is for, hot fixing. Tools, preferences, video, and switch output to Windows. Oh, cool. That's helpful. People who are smarter than me showing me what to do. That's why I'm doing this. Preferences, video. Preferences, video. Switch output to Windows. Sure, let's see if that worked. And if this doesn't work, then we're gonna move on. Because you guys can imagine, I mean, I'm sure most people have played Uncharted or something like it at some point in time. But let's go back. Oh, there it is. Hey, Miguel, thank you so much. There you go. All right. So now you can actually see what I'm talking about. We'll even slow this down. Video playback. Slower. So if you slow this down a lot, that movement right there is what we're going to be trying to recreate in Unity. Basically, you can break each step down into a different state of a state machine, or at least that's how I'm going about it. Yeah. And then it just, man, VLC, why do you, let's see, VLC player, messing, not just looping, that'd be nice if it did. Appreciate it. There it is. Try that one more time. All right. Okay. I want to slow it down even more. One more time. Speed and... I think that's as slow as it goes. But as everyone can see, let me just... Oh, God. Oh, God. It does not loop well. But I think I could just press play again. We'll just cover me because you don't need to see me right now. The idea here is there's different states for which you approach the wall or any piece of environment in while you're playing the game. You have to come in at a certain angle, and I haven't actually programmed that logic in yet, but you come in at a certain angle, and then you enter this like approach phase where he like reaches out partially. And then if you actually get close enough, then his hand will rise, or the player's hand will rise. It'll touch the wall, and then it'll transition into a like exit stage or exit state. I don't know why it restarts like that, but let's see if we slowly go through this. I do not use any raycasting for this, or at least not yet. We might need to later, but this is like my favorite point to replay. So this is the approach phase right here. That's the rise phase, and it quickly transitions once he touched the wall into the exit phase. We can try to see it again. So approach, he hits the point where I want to say it's actually just like where Drake is relative to the wall. And then once he, like, the root transform is of a similar distance to the wall, or like close enough to the wall, it transitions to this rising, let's get back to it. It transitions to this like quick rise of the hand, and then it rotates and exits that animation pretty quickly. I was playing Uncharted for like a few hours, just running around in circles trying to capture this footage, but I was able to like break all that down into the states that we currently have. So let's go and look at the actual code now. Let's hide this Windows. But thanks again, Miguel. I appreciate the help there. Let's check in with the chat actually. How do you edit the animation with IK though? So IK, anything with the animation rigging package, it's all based on weights. So if the weight of the IK is actually at 1, it's going to override the animation completely. And I'll show you that real quick. So we got Banana Man here, and if we have Banana Man, but it's not. Okay, cool. If we enter preview mode, then the rigging package kind of just takes over. And you can see that here. As we move this target, then it's also going to just follow the target as it moves around. But that's only the case because if we look over here at this weight, this 2-bone IK constraint, if the weight goes down, then that no longer does anything, right? And if it's about halfway, then it'll kind of follow. It won't do the whole thing, or like it's not 1-to-1 anymore, but it will juggle between the animations that are keyframed and the animation that is procedurally generated. So just looking at what we have here, we got this 2-bone IK constraint, we have a twist constraint, and a multi-rotation constraint. And I did all of these to get this hand up position. Like, I mean, when you touch a wall, you don't fist it, you don't you just put your hand right on the wall, like so. Without this rotation constraint, it stays in the rotation of the keyframe or the rotation of the 2-bone IK constraint, which is whatever the target is from the 2-bone IK constraint. I understand this is quite a lot. Yeah, sorry, doggy. But I'm hoping that when I actually make the tutorial, I'm able to break all of this down to be much more digestible. And there is a point where some of the tutorials on this channel just might not be as beginner friendly as the other ones, and I might have to like make that distinction of this is an advanced tutorial because we're dealing with like state machines and multiple IK constraints and rigs, and hopefully if you like have followed my other tutorials in the past, then you know, this will be a little more manageable. But I don't know, I've been a developer for like 5 years now, which isn't even that long, but I know that 5 years ago when I was just starting out, none of this would make any sense. Anyway, let's move over to what's the best way to showcase this? I feel like let's run through the code. Let's run through the code first. All right. So I didn't always think that this was going to be a state machine. It just so happened that as I kept watching that video over and over again, I was like, okay, there's actually different parts to this procedural animation. It's not just like he reaches his hands out and touches the wall. It's more that there are different steps to each part of the process. Let's see. Let me scroll to the top. Yeah, so I actually broke this down as I was watching and playing. I was like, all right, so there's how can we make this work? Because I had initially just been like, cool, you attach the 2K two-bone IK constraint, and that's all you really need. It'll just like work if you just move the position. But no, you need to like move the hand and all that other stuff. So let's see. Right now I have it so that we access each of these constraints. We access the two-bone IK constraint and the multi-rotation constraint because we're going to kind of need them. One, the two-bone IK constraint the most because that's what's actually going to move all three of those bones, the hand, the wrist, and the arm. And we're going to want that to move to different positions depending on what state you're in. And then the rotation is part I haven't really figured out yet, is when you get to a different surface, it's going to have to rotate so that the palm will be, what's that? It's not perpendicular because perpendicular is like this way, but it's going to have to be completely the opposite of the normal of that face. So one, I still need to figure out how to get that normal and the direction at which to place that rotated hand. And two, I need to figure out how to actually rotate it so that it actually touches the wall or the ceiling or like whatever angle it's coming in at, it touches it appropriately. Yeah, exactly. It aligns with the surface. Thank you. Somebody's saying, please do an Assassin's Creed-like third-person climbing tutorial. I actually think that going through this will lead to that. Getting a good understanding of the two-bone IK constraint. And honestly, that's kind of all you need as far as I know. Maybe a couple of these other constraints that we're using, like the rotation constraint. But that's definitely possible. And I think it'd be cool to do, too. Let's see. Ray casting would be helpful. You're right, Miguel. In the little research that I've done to find how I'm going to do that, that was recommended too. I appreciate you liking this live stream. I don't do this often, but as this gets more complex, I'm hoping that some of you can actually help out and kind of point us in the right direction. Anyway, I mentioned before, as we watched this video, that there are multiple states that Drake goes through as he approaches walls and different pieces of the environment, whatever it may be, like a table or something. And I did break that down into this list of like things to figure out, things I already think I understand, and depending on, or let me say that there are certain instances where this animation should just stop because like you just stop moving, and that's something I noticed when Drake stopped moving. That animation, he just drops his hand immediately. If the player starts moving away from that, wherever the target is at that point, like if the distance grows, then that animation is canceled. And I think let me show that last one actually, where it says if the player's closest point is, if it runs out of like surface, meaning it's just something really small and he moves past it, then that also cancels it. Let's see that one more time. I think it's this last one, this last little pole here, that he gets close to it and it kind of goes up, but the others have like a full animation, whereas that one he kind of like just pulls back. Sorry for the green, but that's how VLC wants to handle the video ending. The question is, characters getting the actual geometry, or they have special game objects pre-placed. See, I thought that too, but after playing Uncharted, he's touching every part of the wall. It's not like a certain point, because I think that makes sense too. It's like if you collide with something and there's a point that they have already like baked into the prefab of like, yes, this is the point you should touch, then as you get closer, he'll reach out to that point. But it's really like any wall seems like you can reach out and drag your hand on it for a second and then it'll move on. And that's what led to me doing it this way, of everything should be touchable. We need to find a way to know if the character is close enough to a collider to actually touch it. There's definitely like some layers that you can use, like make a interactable layer or something like that, so you kind of can skimp out on all of the other layers that, or colliders that may be coming through the, what is it, on trigger enter. But yeah, touch everything, exactly. But so now we know these are like the possible ways that this animation can be canceled. I think this was just me breaking it down into how I think it should work. Yeah, this is the step-by-step of how I saw those animations working. And this is still stuff I need to figure out. Did I figure out any of this yet? Oh, I did figure this out. So I am professionally a JavaScript and TypeScript developer. And in those, you can kind of just set specific types for variables. So like if I think something's going to be a string, or if it's null, I can say, hey, it's going to be string or null. But what I found with like setting a vector3 here, like this closest point position, I can't set it back to null. So if this would be, I'm pretty sure it'd be null without the definition or assignment that I just had. And I was like, okay, cool. If this doesn't exist, then we should just turn this off. But I wasn't able to turn it back to null once it was actually set. And that's something I learned today or a few weeks ago. So instead, we're just going to set this to positive infinity, which in our code, there's a couple places we use this, positive infinity, to gate whether or not we should actually be like switching to the appropriate state or not. Let's see. I want to balance talking to all of you while also explaining the code. Let's see. A raycast to the left or right of the player with the distance check should work. Kind of, because if you're the way that I have it, oh, Miguel, you didn't have to do that, dude. I appreciate it. The problem with only raycasting is that there's different angles at which, like you can't only go left or right because then there's no prediction, right? Let's move over to, got a Stream Deck recently, so it's been pretty handy. All right, so the way that we're handling it is we're creating two colliders, two triggers, and the problem with raycasting is that there's no prediction. So once this trigger is entered, like we knew this was coming, rather than just projecting out to the left or right of the shoulders, we wouldn't have that interaction prediction. Like we wouldn't know it was coming until it was literally at a 90-degree angle. Sure, you can add more raycasts like at different degrees, so you'd have one shooting out from like straight and like 45 degrees and 90 degrees and try to handle it that way. But the logic on that in my head, don't know for sure, but it sounds a little more confusing because right now, if we jump back over to VS Code, we jump back over to VS Code, we're really just handling a lot of the logic for that closest position and interaction with the wall in onTrigger enter, onTrigger stay, and onTrigger exit. So the nice thing about not really having to deal with or having like the state machine is we can add in conditions here. So depending on the state, we can perform different logic in onTrigger stay versus or we can forget about it completely. So in onTrigger stay, we don't want that to do anything if we're either in the so I have reset state and search. No, we want it to do something in search. Specifically reset when like we need to just say, okay, he interacted with something or the player interacted with something. Let's give it a little bit of time before we restart the search for the next position that they can interact with. Does that make sense? Because you're dealing with the walls. But there's like a level of interactivity ahead of that 90-degree difference. So he's not always reaching out like straight to his sides, you know? He kind of reaches forward first, and that's why that 90-degree angle doesn't really work. Yeah, that is my impression too, Banana. Banana Bauer. It's a funny name. Just get the normal of the hit points and compare it to the player's rotation with a threshold. So that's actually how I plan on doing the finding the normal of the surface. But I feel like we can wait to do that raycast until we're at a certain point in the animation. Oh, well, that's awesome, Kutan. I hope that this isn't a complete waste of your time. Let's see. So here's a question that I'd posed to the chat, which is just good to have you all here for. Normally, and the way that I've done state machines in the past is by creating an abstract class and having concrete classes derived from that abstract class, that base state class. I think it's like a pretty clean way to make a state machine in C#. But I've had some people say that, like, why not just use switch statements? And that's what I've been doing for this. At the same time, I'm like, yeah, but now this is kind of cluttered. Everything is in one place, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But I'm curious what you all think is the better approach. The idea is an abstract class allows a state machine to be more scalable. It's because like eventually this could be like a 5,000 line state machine, but right now we're not even at 500. So I'm curious if you think it's cleaner to keep everything in this one file for now, and like if it does exceed like 1,000 lines or something, we can separate it out into abstract and base and everything. But for now, I'm wondering what you all think. Yeah, see, that's how I feel too. But I swear, there are people in the comment sections of these that are like not fans of the abstract class. I don't know if it's me reading too much into the comments, but I'm like, am I doing it right? Am I teaching the right thing by having people make an abstract class and stuff? Yeah, people already in. See, I'll just trust the chat. Trusting the chat's the way to go. All right, so let's actually try to do something rather than just talking about what I've already done. One more time, we're going to look at the video, and I can try to show you all exactly how each state, or like what part each state is, each state is. If this would like to not be green anymore. It does not. It likes to be green. Great. Okay. Stopping it and then playing. All right, cool. Looping does not work well. Okay. So right here, I'd consider Drake in like either the reset stage because he like just reached out, or he's already searching again for the next thing that he can interact with. As we start moving, searching right here, that right there, that little like switch over as he raises his arm the slightest bit, that's the approach phase, and that's what I've got implemented so far. The next part right there is what I consider to be the rise state. We can scroll all the way to the top where I define these different states as an enum. We got the search, check, approach, check. Rise is what needs to be implemented next. From there, he actually touches and transitions out, which I think can both be one state, but it could be that little push forward might be a separate state, and then the twist for him to like exit, and now he's back to the reset state. A lot of this is currently handled with coroutines, and you can see that we have this like approach state countdown, which currently means that if you enter the approach state where he first raises his arm the slightest bit, if you enter that state and you don't get close enough to actually transition over to the rise state, which will be based on a certain distance from the target, then after like 4 seconds or whatever, then you're just going to drop your hand. That works actually well. I did that yesterday. We have an update weights coroutine, which is a more generic way to update the weights between each state. Got this working pretty well. And I want it to be based on the speed at which the character is moving, because if like, it wouldn't make sense if you're like sprinting and then there's like a quick interaction, but his hand's like moving up slowly. So I did a little math to make that work the way that it's supposed to. And I'm still not even positive it is. Then we have this reset state countdown, which does exactly what it's supposed to, which is when you enter the reset state, you shouldn't be able to interact with anything. Everything should be like disabled. And after a certain amount of time, the integer that you pass to this coroutine, then you go back into the searching and it'll find the closest point once you interact with another collider. So yeah, those are the coroutines that I have, and each one has been used in their appropriate or associated state. Let's see. Any questions? Oh, what's up, Bunzy? Good to see you, dude. Yeah, this is inverse kinematics, kind of. It's the 2-bone IK constraint, and we're going to be using that to do some cool stuff. Really charged state machine, abstract classing. I don't think the outcome, and I don't like switch statement solution either. Kutan, you're not offering any way to fix it though. If we don't like the abstract class and we don't like switch statements, what are we supposed to do? For Rise, maybe you'll need to use a sphere cast to find if the hand can move in that space. Brogox, what do you mean by that? Reset is not exit. Reset is just the reset state is when the animation has been completed or it got canceled out because of one of the 3 reasons that we had listed up earlier in the up here. One of these possible cancellations can lead to the reset state, or the animation has completely finished. The exit state is supposed to be part of, like, exiting the animation is supposed to be part of this touch, but again, I'm not sure if we need to separate those out or if we can do the whole touching, twisting, and coming down all in this one state. I feel like we'll figure that out when we actually get to it. Okay. Yeah, exactly, Banana. That's right. Alan, the stream is intended to be archived as long as I put the settings on correctly. I'm not 100% sure I did. I think enable DVR is what does that, but it's been months since I've live streamed, and I think that's what it's supposed to be. What do you use for IntelliSense on VS Code? I think it's just whatever's built in. I don't remember adding anything specific other than the theme. Okay. So give me a second as I try to remember where I left off with this. The approach state is working as expected, whereas you get closer to it and it's going to raise the arm, and we need it now so that if you're within a certain distance of the target, and by target, I mean the closest point, which was that red ball that we saw earlier, the gizmo that's created. If you're within a certain distance of that, then we want the IK target to rise. Let's actually switch over to Unity and I can show you what I mean. Okay. Oh, we are still in play mode. It's great for my computer. Cool. So, this little ball that's going to pop up, if we're a certain distance from that, if it can rise, it should. And if it can't, then it won't. What I think is important to point out is that little ball actually isn't what's controlling the hand. That's just the closest point to between the shoulder and whatever the collider is that we're taking a look at. What's controlling the hand is this little guy down here. Let's see if we could show that off real quick. All right, so this might not. Okay, see how it's down on the bottom right there? It's, let me see if I can move it. No, it might be overridden right now. Oh, the weight's at 0. Sorry about that. But if you, this little square is what I have as the IK target, which is underneath the this rig that I have set up, the constraints, excuse me. Oh no, Alan, I'm totally with you. And actually, there is an enter state and exit state for each of the states. I just have them as switch statements as well. Which is why I'm like, I think it probably makes sense to refactor this and go with the abstract state for the tutorial. Cool. There's some people popping in now to answer your questions. Yes, this is scripting to move the inverse kinematic stuff. And yeah, this is also using the animation rigging package. Back in Unity. Let's see. We can move this around to be a little more clear. Yeah, we'll go with that. All right. All right, so you see how there's a ball, that red ball, and it's hard to demonstrate this, to be honest, because everything, it keeps resetting. But you can see the red ball. Let's give it a second. That reset timer, I should probably just make it like 0, so it just doesn't take any time to reset. I just blew it. The walk animation is pure swag. Hell yeah. All right. You see how the square is below the ball? The idea is that we'll raise the square when we hit that rise state. Sorry, that was not as easy to demonstrate as I expected it to be. But the way that we're going to do that is by when we're in the approach state, in the update state, when we update the state, we can, no, because we actually update the in our on trigger stay, we are constantly updating the IK target transform position, which is that little cube. And we're setting it to this prep point position, which is not the same as the little circle. The closest point position is that little circle. And we're doing all of this in either on trigger stay or on trigger enter. What we need to do is move this prep point position so that it rises. And when we set the IK target transform position, it should be appropriately at the right height. Now to do that, we're currently setting the y value to 0 of this prep point. But we need it to be a variable that dynamically will rise once we enter the rise state. So this, I think, will have to be another switch statement because we have different, because we have different logic depending on the state that we're in. And I continue to hate switch statements, and I feel like this is getting overly complicated by keeping in switch statements. You know what? I'm saying it now. We're going to switch over to the abstract class, and by the time this tutorial is actually released, we will be using abstract classes instead. How about that? Oof. Well, okay. But for now, we can add another switch statement, which is great. We love switch statements. Love them a lot. Am I still in play mode here? Cool. I don't want this to like crash my computer, so we're streaming. I agree, Masticator. I agree. So, this logic here on trigger stay, this makes sense to do in the search state and the approach state. I hate that that's duplicated code, but because we're going to refactor all this anyway, I'll just stick with it for now. Copy paste, whatever. Please, if you're watching this, don't do what I'm doing right now. Wait for the real tutorial, and I promise it'll be much better code. This is ugly. You shouldn't do this, but it is what it is. Actually, we can make this a little better. There you go. Now, done. But still, don't do this. Don't use switch statements. No switch statement. This value needs to change. We need to lerp a value. We're setting the prep point position. So actually, it doesn't make sense to put this as 0 and not use that variable. It should be 0 to start, and eventually we'll raise that from 0 up until the height that we want it to be. But it does not make sense to separate these out. So all of these actually should be the same. I apologize. This is all live. I hope you just saw what I saw, but this should not be 0. Actually, it can be by default, but the offset. We'll say the prep point position offset, which is a float. Y offset. Let's be a little more accurate. It's equal to 0. Cool. And then we'll replace that with this. Cool. But we need the prep point position to rise. So maybe I wasn't wrong. Maybe we need these to be a little different because we need code. Oh my god, it's so ugly though. If we were like, if the state, like, this defeats the point of a switch statement to add a condition that if it's the rise state that we update the prep point position Y offset. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Am I really not? Oh, God. As you can tell, I'm new to this. But no, dude, thanks for telling me. Sorry it took so long to actually realize that. Anyway, the difference here that I just made over the past 5 minutes of just talking to you and you guys looking at Unity instead of what you should be was going back here. We have this switch statement in onTriggerStay, and we have this 0 value, which is how that cube was being set to the floor instead of like just where the closest point is. We just drop it down to 0. You could also use like the root transform if you just want it at the same level of the character, but that doesn't really matter. We just want his hand to reach out and it not to actually go for like something higher than where he is. Here, I was like, okay, we don't want this for the rise state. The rise state is supposed to actually raise that cube, so he does raise his hand and touch the wall if the closest point can be there, you know. So we intentionally made a new variable called prep point position y offset, set it to 0 as the start, and replace that hard-coded 0 value with that y offset. Now the point that I'm at internally is how do we raise this prep point position y offset from 0 to where it should be? I've been digging coroutines, to be honest, and I'm thinking that we could just do that. That if we are in when we enter the rise state, we can start a new coroutine, which will raise that prep point position y offset to a given value that's passed to the coroutine, which we can calculate like at some point. And when we exit the rise state, we can stop the coroutine. Does that make sense? You hate coroutines. The things that will backfire the most often. It's been working pretty well for this. So, I don't know. If there's actually like a solid reason as to not use them, then maybe we'll try to do something different. I'm using states. There should be no reason to use coroutines. I don't know if that's true. Can run multiple times in parallel. That's why we're stopping them. That's why we're stopping each coroutine at the appropriate time. I guess that could lead to issues, so like if you forget to, but I'll consider that as I refactor. If I can do it so that when you enter a state, we're just like incrementing some kind of value, like some timer or something, because that's what I've been using them for mostly, right? Is updating the weight using a lerp, which just does it over a certain amount of time, and waiting for a timer. So I guess you could just like store a local variable in each state for like time, and after a certain amount of time just exit the state, specifically like resetting the reset state. If you enter that state, like the timer just, we increment the timer over time over the each update. But for now, We're going with coroutines. Thank you for the kind words, Elias. I appreciate it. So. Okay, let's see what we can do in the next like 10, 15 minutes because I do have to go, but it'd be awesome to get something more concrete done. Now you guys are just seeing like how I think and how I debug certain issues. Hopefully it's just like a pretty good overview of the work that's been done on this so far. And if there's any criticism, I would appreciate it. But let's see if we can actually get something cool done. Like entering the rise state and trying to get that to lift up. For now, we're going to go with a coroutine again, which we will say is, actually, I'm just going to make this quicker by duplicate this. We'll say the rise raise target coroutine. Yeah, and we'll say we'll just copy this because this is the logic we actually are looking for. Actually, we should just copy this one to begin with. We'll just say raise target coroutine, which is not for the weight. It's supposed to raise the prep position y offset. It's supposed to do that over time, and its starting is supposed to be what it was before. And then what should the actual value be? The value is what should be passed in here. So it's the, not the target weight, but the height target. Sure. And I think that's it. What's this do? Speed, adjusted, duration. Cool. Gonna need to make a couple more changes up here, like duplicating this. What do we call it? The raise target coroutine. Sure, makes sense. And we're gonna want to do this when we enter the rise state. The raise target coroutine. Start that coroutine. And we are going to say, I don't know, a lot of this is hard coded right now because I've just been trying to get it to work, but we're going to want to do it over 2 seconds. And the height's the confusing one, but I'm pretty sure if we look back, once again, reopening VLC, if we look back at this here, I want to say that the height is just like about shoulder height. Like if you look right around there, it looks about level with the shoulder. So we actually, with the, let me hide that again. OBS. With the two-bone IK constraint, we have the transform values for the shoulder, the elbow, and the hand. So we have that shoulder height. Like we have access to it, so we can use it here. And that's what I've been doing in a couple other areas of this code, is using the shoulder as a position for a couple of other variables. Shoulder transform dot position dot Y. Cool. So let's just say, for testing purposes, that we want to raise this. I have it in a couple places where we're changing the state. Yeah, let's just see how this works. When we enter, instead of transitioning over to the reset state, we're going to transition over to the rise state just for testing purposes. But I want to see if that coroutine actually will raise the position of the that Y offset. And now, actually, one more thing is that we're going to want to reset this value when we actually go into the reset state. Which is enter state. We say the theme I use for VS Code is called, I can just tell you, theme. Happy Hipster. I like it. What do we get for subbing to the Patreon? You get access to all of my projects if you are at the Ultra supporter tier. The super supporters get to vote on the next tutorial that we cover, although that can sometimes be up in the air if like I have partnerships with Unity and stuff. And early access to videos, I think. It's been a while since I've made those tiers. But I think you get early access to videos. Like, so if I have this done early, then I'll show it to patrons first. What coroutine as a variable? What does that do? That allows you to properly stop a specific coroutine from continuing. If you were like, for this instance specifically, if we're in the middle of the animation, transitioning between like the approach and the rise states, but like, I don't know, he starts walking away, we want to stop that coroutine. We want to stop all the coroutines and move on to like the reset state. So you can say, cool, I have these saved coroutines in these variables. You can stop each one specifically. And that's what that does. It's my understanding. But going back, I think we should be good to try this in Unity. Man, that's one of the bigger things about Unity is that changing scripts, just like you burn time. Just took 30 seconds for that to load. I don't know if it's my computer, but I feel like this isn't that extensive of a project. And it just, I can't imagine working with something that's actually production ready. All right. So we're gonna touch bunny man. Okay. Let's see how this works. If it does. Actually, we need to move the scene view over to bear witness to this actually transitioning. So after 4 seconds, this should technically rise, or else I was just wrong. Let's see. It's not rising. It is not doing what I expected it to. Let's see if we can make a couple logs and find out why. So all those. I have this other should reset checked, which is where we're gonna actually check for these three. Sorry, I forgot to switch over, but I fortunately remembered earlier than last time. And apologies for the sirens, but not much I can do about that. Yeah, so these three cancellations here, I plan on having those covered in this. What is it? Check should reset. Yeah, check should reset. The first one I have is if he stops, and that's the only one I have right now. But why didn't the height update as it should have? Height of the target. I have not looked into either of those, but it sounds helpful. Let's see. First, we're gonna see if this is being hidden. Seeing target, yes. And then enter state. Just a couple small logs. Actually, I want to remove the other ones that we have in there because it's just too much noise. No, that's a different one. That's annoying. Okay. Switch over to Unity. And uh-oh. Oh no. My bad. Let me restart that. Cool. All right. So as we start walking, I want to clear these so we're a little more, we know what's going on. Start walking forward. We're in the approach state. Raising target, but it's not updating that value. So that's strange. Raise target coroutine should be taking this position. And because it's still touching, the on trigger stay here should be updated. You know what it is? Or at least I think it is. I think that because we are setting, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, that's weird, actually. So we have this Y offset, right? And we only set it to 0 in reset and at the start. And this is supposed to be raising over time. It's supposed to be raising it to the target that we pass in, which should be this in world space. Show me the code and I will fix it. Well, here you are. This is the code. Oh man, me doing it again. I apologize, George. You're right. I was not showing you the code. Need somebody to just be pressing these buttons for me, honestly. But more to the point, we are setting this shoulder transform position, which should just be where his shoulder is in world space. And it's supposed to raise that same position, or the point at which we set the target. You know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna try to set, we're gonna skip the coroutine for now, which is fine. And we're gonna just say, when we enter the rise state, we're going to set the prep point position y offset equal to this, and we can figure out from there. So that's one of the things that I do want to talk about too at some point on this channel is proper debugging, because I feel like as I become a better developer, and I still think I'm still learning a lot, so hopefully people understand that. But as I've gotten to be a better developer, breaking things down into smaller problems and working out internally how you can break things down into small problems that you can fix is how you'll lead to larger results, like fixing larger problems. And I feel like even in what I've demonstrated today of you have this animation that you want to perform, which is as simple as raising your hand, but it's not that simple. There's actually, you break that down into each state, and that's the solution is rather than trying to handle everything at once, you break things down into smaller problems, and how can you work through those in a more manageable way. So at some point, it'd be cool to make a video about just like how to think about larger problems and how to approach them. Is that something you guys would be interested in? I appreciate it, George. Let's see. Oh, I do have to leave very soon. We'll give it 5 more minutes, and that's it. What stops the approach coroutine from running when you switch to rise? Dude, that's so true. Let's see, what is the... Oh, wait, wait, no. The approach state countdown is actually what's leading to the rise state. That's the only way that we're getting to the rise state right now. So it's supposed to be running. But again, like we just pointed out here, let's see if we just switch the prep point position y offset to that shoulder value, if it does what we expect it to. And for the sake of I'm impatient, let's change this countdown time just to like 2 seconds. All right. Hey, there you go. So there's something wrong with our coroutine it's not changing, but that was the idea, which is after a couple seconds, it's supposed to, let's actually just demonstrate it one more time. I'm happy we were able to see that through. Oh, and let's also make sure, am I showing the right thing. All right. I would hate to be like, yeah, it worked, and then say goodbye to everybody and never show that it actually did. Cool. So you walk, and then you see that target is on the ground, but then it pops up after 2 seconds, which in the intention with this is that it will rise slowly over time, and it'll be just like the animation that we saw in the video, so that he kind of raises his hand up from the initial like reaching out state, the approach state, to the rise state, and that will transition once you hit the top to the like touch / rotation state, and then you kind of just start dropping the weight and he moves on. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream, and it was cool to work through this with you guys and show you what's going on. I do think that there's still a good amount of work to be done on this, so hopefully it doesn't take too much longer to figure everything out. But as you can see, like, again, breaking things down into different states has been super helpful. It took me a while to figure out that that's the approach that we should actually go for this. I'm hoping that it doesn't take too much longer for each state to actually be complete. And then once that's done, I'll move on to actually editing and writing the script. And once that's done, the video will be released. And yeah, as always, it's been awesome to talk to you. Thank you for watching, and